The Oklahoma Sooners finished the 2026 recruiting cycle strong with some day one difference makers.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. The Oklahoma Sooners wrapped up the 2026 recruiting cycle with a top 15 class, signing 24 guys, and they did bring in some day one difference makers. We've got Brian Smith, Locked On's recruiting expert of The Portal. You can follow that show wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. You can follow Brian on social media at FBScout_Florida. You've heard him before. We love bringing Brian in here to talk about Oklahoma's recruiting class. So Brian, let's just start with the general makeup of the class. What did you think about the way that Oklahoma finished the cycle?
A little surprising. Like, it's not, by the way, we'll get into the 27 side of this, but they got Jake, they had Bo and some other guys, but they get Jonathan Hatton late. They get the Petit kid, like Wisconsin was hoping they would get him. I told my buddy, with your passing game, that's probably never going to happen. But like, they get some players that we didn't know for sure. And they got guys that have the athleticism to play early in the Southeastern Conference. So hats off to Venables and everybody in the back office at OU. That's an all-around effort to get that kind of stuff done. They improved themselves quite a bit. That class for a while, I wasn't sure where it was headed. And they picked up Krew. It was slow moving, but it got to the finish line, and that's the bottom line. So they got a class that can compete towards the top end of the conference, and at the end was really important. Hatton might be actually the most interesting guy. I'm not sure exactly how he will be used, but he's such a powerful and athletic guy. I'm curious to see what they do with him.
Well, they certainly have a need at running back with the way that they've been banged up this year with Xavier Robinson and Torrey Blaylock, and not really been able to find a consistent running game or really anything consistent on offense. Hatton's one of those guys, along with several others, that could actually make a difference early on. We've had you on to talk about Jake Kreul before, but let's remind the people just exactly what you've seen from him. He's down there at IMG Academy. Brian is based out of Florida, so you've gotten a lot of opportunity to see Kreul firsthand.
Yeah, I've known him since he was a freshman in high school. He was at the Under Armour camp in Orlando. We're like, who the hell is this freshman? He was like 205, 210 at the time. And he was one of the top 3 pass rushers at the camp as a freshman. And he's just continued to get better. And then he transferred to IMG. He is the most advanced technical pass rusher I've ever seen at the high school level. I really don't know who number 2 is. He's not the longest cat in the gym. Like, he's 6'2", 6'2 and a half, but he's smarter, works harder. And again, like I don't want to say just advanced technique. Like, he's better than the 90% of the college guys, literally. Technically,
Wow.
Stop and start, spin, move, push, pull, anything you want to throw at him to tell him, hey, show me how this works against the college. He can do that. He won like 12 reps in a row in one-on-ones at the Under Armour Miami camp. Like, these are dudes. And he just obliterated people. So if he gets stoned early, he has a counter move. Like, he thinks as much, if not more, than he uses his athleticism. And he's really twitchy, but still, he's not the longest guy, but he gets there. It's amazing how well he will fit into Venables' scheme. And there's no way that he won't find a way onto the field in some capacity. And I know OU's got defensive ends, but he's going to play next year. I'm curious to see if they're going to drop him at all or use him in a linebacker too, because he's 235-ish, 240, somewhere in that range. Maybe they use him in a dual role, but guaranteed special teams from play one. He'll be a part of that too.
Yeah, I think you see Brent Venables using his defensive ends in some zone drops from time to time. Marvin Jones Jr. has done a really good job in that role this year. Trace Ford last year did a good job, and Kreul's got the athleticism to be able to be a difference maker in some 3rd and long situations, even as a true freshman.
That won't be any problem. Playing at IMG will help with that. That's college level coaching. He's pushed in a different manner, and he's the kind of guy that's a leader. He'll take that on as not something you have to do, but something he wants to do. And I think, again, that kind of fits Venables. He needs those kinds of kids because his defense is probably not the friendliest to learn. Let's be honest. They run a lot of stuff. And that's why certain kids will come in that are highly ranked and don't play. You don't learn the scheme, it doesn't make any difference. Jake won't be one of those. I think Kreul will come in By game 6, he'll be in the 2 deep at the latest, if not by game 1. Like, he's going to have a part of that package figured out before he even gets to fall camp. Like, he likes that kind of stuff. So I think he will play early, and he'll be a fan favorite. Great guy to be around. Yes, sir. No, sir. He's not big headed. He is absolutely the kind of college football player that I like to root for.
Jayden Petit, another Florida kid, was committed to Wisconsin for a really, really long time, up until the night before he committed to Oklahoma. They got a big flip. A lot of people are really, really high on this kid. What do you see in him, and what might make him a difference maker at Oklahoma?
Well, Oklahoma, like, needs a lot of guys that can make plays down the field to get this offense back to where it needs to be. And he's got size. He's not necessarily a super, super fast guy. He's got good speed, but like 6'4" doesn't grow on trees. He's a kid from Southwest Florida. He plays in the Naples area, played smaller school competition, but the frame and the body, like, he can be a guy. He's somebody that Florida and Clemson and a bunch of other schools looked at. Like, he's a player. I'm curious to see if he can acclimate right away. I mean, small school division, even though it's Florida, to the Southeastern Conference is a large step, but they just don't create many 200-pound guys that are 6'4" that can move like him. If he can take on the physicality of the league, that's going to be an interesting player to get, because maybe he helps as a freshman, but no later than a sophomore year. He should be your boundary receiver as a starter at some point in his career, if not by the end of his second year.
Couple more Florida kids I want to talk to you before we kind of just talk about maybe some of your favorites that aren't from the state of Florida. Jacob Curry, Brian Harris, two guys that, again, weren't necessarily on Oklahoma's radar, or Brian Harris was for a while, but Jacob Curry was committed elsewhere initially to Northwestern, ends up committing to and signing with Oklahoma. What do you make out of those guys? They seem to just bring a lot of tenacity to their games.
Let's start with Harris. I saw him at the Under Armour camp in Orlando. Great kid, first off. Pretty good pass rusher. I wouldn't say he's on Jake's level as a pass rusher, although I don't think anybody really is. But he's a guy that can play 5-tech or inside, kind of move around. He's a very good fit for a one-gap scheme, which Brent likes to run. And I also think he's a guy that will take coaching. The difference between him at the end of his sophomore going to his junior year than this next spring, this one we just saw, was night and day. Like, he changed his body. He was a guy that was in totally different shape mentally, and everything he did, from just getting a mature look on everything that he did and how he interviewed. That's a guy that I think Venables will like, and it's probably one of the reasons they went after him. I don't think they'll have any problems with him. He'll be another yes sir, no sir guy. But the first step, the technique and all that stuff, he fits a 4-3 get up the field and attack defense, which OU runs. So that's a guy that I think for them is ranked higher than what the services might have. Like, for whatever it's worth, I'm looking at it right now. Like, the On3 side has him as a 3-star. For Venables' system, he's not a 3-star. I can tell you that right now. He's a guy that, I know Oklahoma's not exactly hurting on the D line, but by the end of his sophomore year, everybody will know who he is. Again, freshman year, that's debatable whether or not he'll play a ton, but sophomore year for sure he will. As for Curry, he's just a tackling machine that lives in the greater Jacksonville area. Super smart. He's the linebacker version of Krew, in that he knows where to be. He knows how to get there. He knows all the little things that you need to do to make plays in space. He can cover it pretty well, but he's just as good a tackler as there is. A little undersized, kind of fits the Venables mantra. And above all else, will play 100 mile an hour. Another guy that, quite honestly, Oklahoma fans will probably love.
And that just kind of seems to be the theme for this class, is we're finding guys with high motors, with a lot of speed, play physical, play tenacious. Is there somebody in this class that we haven't talked about that you're a big fan of?
Probably Daniel Odom.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy I liked his film. I never got to see him live, but he's St. John Bosco. For people that don't know, that's about as good a program as there is in the United States. Another kid that's going to come in after playing in the Trinity League, which is arguably the best league in the country. In LA, it's the private schools out there with, Bosco, Mater Dei, etc. He's a kid that I think that Oklahoma will have to at least look at playing some next year, John. Not super big, not super fast, but he's just a little bit of everything, and he catches the ball well in and out of his breaks. Wide receiver is one of the easiest positions to play early, and they need some help. Wouldn't be surprised if he was one of their top 5 receivers on day one. Really wouldn't. That program's a little different, and he committed pretty early, if I remember right. Like that was quite a while back, and it's kind of been forgotten, but that doesn't mean he's not any less impactful. That's a ball player.
Yeah, he was a big commit for Oklahoma and then just never seemed to really waver, even though like there was talk that with the Jaden O'Neal transition to Florida State, that Daniel Odom's commitment might be in jeopardy, but that never came to pass. He just stayed committed and then there was no drama through signing day and just ended up signing. So we're going to get a standout player at wide receiver in Daniel Odom.
The other kid's Jasir Rogers. I know he's an East Coast kid and he's not the biggest, but he has punt returner written all over him. He's your jet sweep guy, kind of like he's a Malachi Tony style, the kid at Miami. Electric, and he played competition in Delaware. That's a joke. Like he was the best player in Delaware probably the last 3 years.
Yeah, he's a really fun player to watch. So I can't wait to see what they do with them. Yeah, it's really fun. Definitely go check Jasir Rogers out on Huddle. We're going to talk a little bit about the 2027 class because man, the Oklahoma Sooners are off to a fast start. Thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Thanks for also making Locked On the Portal with Brian Smith your other listen of the day, and check him out for all your recruiting. And with the transfer portal starting to heat up as teams finish their seasons, the actual portal session is just a few weeks away. So Brian's going to have a ton to talk about here in a few weeks with all these entries into the portal and who might be going where. And it sounds like it's going to be a huge quarterback class as well. But let's talk 2027 recruiting outlook. The Oklahoma Sooners already have 11 kids committed. And this is like fast forwarded for Brent Venables and his staff. I don't think they've had this many kids committed at this point in a cycle at any time during his Oklahoma tenure. What do you make of the class so far?
It's truly elite. It's ironic that we're doing the podcast when we're doing it, because one of my favorite players, regardless of position for the class of 27, is Elijah Harmon, the kid they just got out of Inglewood.
Oh my gosh.
He's super talented. Yeah. And like, to be very clear, recruiting rankings are impossible. And a lot of us that do them in any way, shape, or form, we all share notes across networks. Anybody that tells you otherwise is a bold-faced liar. We don't get to see the California kids that often. There's only a handful of guys out there, guys like Andrew Ivins, et cetera. Most people are in the Southeast, like me. I live in Alabama and I've lived in Florida. We just rotate through the 3 or 4 states because where all the camps and stuff are. We don't get to see him. But if you throw out Elijah Harmon's film, yeah, that's legit. He's another one step and he's up the field power guy, but with the speed to be a 1 gap and go 3 tech, and he can 2 gap if you want him to be 6'3", 300. This is a toy for the entire OU staff, because you start getting kids like him, like physically, he might be more talented than Stone. He's in that realm. I don't know him. Stone's obviously a kid that needed to mature and all that, and he's starting to come into his own. I think this kid might be a further step down the road in that regard. Like if he's an impact guy, it wouldn't surprise. Kind of like Jayden. Jayden was super mature when he was at IMG. This could be an impact guy, and 300 pounders like that. And he's one of several in that realm, like lineman. My favorite guy in the class is actually the defensive end they got. But like Krew Jones, he was the best pass rusher of anybody. And it was a loaded group this year at Future 50 down at Under Armour at IMG. He was the best pass rusher in the country. They had tons of guys. We're like, who the hell is this kid? It was just unbelievable. Like he was annihilating people that had like 30, 40 offers. He's the closest thing to Jake in the 2027 class. He's not as technically refined. I don't know if I'll see another Jake in my lifetime technically, but he's longer, twitchier, and he still has that same crazy kind of mentality like Jake does, going 100 mile an hour. Like Jake's not normal. Like he's a great kid to talk to off the field. He's got a guy you want to be buddies with your kids, but on the field, Jake's a little different. Krew kind of strikes me as the same. So who are the brothers that played at Ohio State, played in the NFL? He's like that. The defensive ends, but he's that crazy guy that fits Venables' scheme. Same theme as it was with the 26 class.
Yeah, it just seems like Miguel Chavis has got a bit of a type, right? Just looking for some dudes that is a little bit crazy. Like there's a fine line between like, off the field, you would not want to be around this guy at all. But when you put him on the field, like who he is on the field is just a maniac. And listen, you kind of have to be to do some of the things that Brent Venables asks you to do in this defense, looping around and going inside and, beating guards and centers and things like that. Like man, that's music to my ears to see that, hey, you got a Jake Kreul coming, that Krew Jones is also really, really gifted athletically. I mean, and then the Elijah Harmon comment, I thought the same thing.
Oh, he's awesome.
So good. Just, he's already got incredible size for a kid that's just finished his junior year. And then, you talked about the quickness and the speed. Like, he can do everything that you want him to do along a defensive line, and he's going to be a force when it comes down to it. What else have you made so far of this class?
They're focusing on linemen. This is the epic year that every state has this kind of random stuff. You know how I was picking on you guys earlier this year, especially Jay, because I like to pick on Jay. You guys weren't picking up anybody in state.
Right.
I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing with in-state recruiting? Well, they're not messing around this year. There's 2 really high-end offensive tackles within the Sooner State, and they went and got them already. Like, these are guys that Miami and Penn State and USC, everybody's going to come and recruit the state of Oklahoma this year, try to flip those kids because tackles are rare. They're too big time, and they got them already. You got Harmon, you got Krew. Like, you have elite players on the edge on both sides, and you've got an elite defensive tackle already. This is insane. Like, this is what you hope to have come signing day next year, and you've got like 360 days to get there or whatever it is. So they're so far ahead, it's insane. So I think this is going to be a lineman heavy class, and they're doing the right things. They're going after the elite kids and getting some of them to commit early, which, now you just got to fend off everybody. But now you can be very patient. You're at 11 dudes. It'll take 23 to 27, probably most years. Now there's an extended number, obviously, on scholarship, but they can be very patient, even with the linemen. Like, if they take another tackle, it's going to be somebody they more or less handpick, because look who we already got.
Right.
Why would we bring in somebody that's never going to beat these guys? It's got to be a complete dude. They're in the catbird seat right here. So now it's just, can you go find that elite 5-star receiver? That's the hardest. Those guys, they're the biggest prima donnas in the recruiting world now. That I never want to pick where they're going. I'm just going to be blunt.
Yeah.
I deal with a lot of them. That's the only thing left really for Oklahoma to get, is that superstar guy. You got your quarterback last year, so you would think they would be able to at least come close to that. And they got a couple pretty good ones in this last class. If they add to it, that's the next step, in my opinion, for Oklahoma to become an elite SEC team.
All right. Before we get you out of here, Brian, what do you make of Oklahoma's status in the college football playoff, bracket? What do you think about their matchup against Alabama? Do you think they've got a chance to maybe, like, hey, if we knock off Alabama, we can maybe get past Indiana? What do you think? What do you think is the ceiling for this team?
I don't like them against Indiana. I don't like Alabama against Indiana either after they beat Ohio State. That surprised me. Like, I'm an Indiana grad, and I didn't pick them to beat Ohio State. Like, that puts that in perspective. I think Ohio State's still the best team, but Oklahoma has to play better on offense. So does Alabama. One of them has to win. That's first off. Like, that may not be the prettiest game. My biggest question, I went back and looked at the stats, and you tell me if this surprised you. Mateer had 8 rushing attempts against LSU. In my opinion, there's no way in hell he's healthy, or they would have ran him more. But he's got some time off. How much does he run against Bama this time? I bet you it's 12, 14 times. If he's not running much, your season can come to an end. They don't pass it consistently enough, in my opinion. But Bama's offense, for the love of mankind, -3 against Georgia. And I know it's Georgia.
It's crazy.
They might have that might be the only defense playing better than Oklahoma right now. It's debatable, but take your pick. -3, and now you got to go to Norman. And I don't think Ty Simpson's healthy either. He's been really inconsistent the last few weeks. That game will be wild. But if they figure it out on offense at all, then they could maybe beat Indiana. Like, OU is not a team I would want to touch with a bet. I'm not a gambler, but your Sooners would be very, very difficult because that defense is nasty. But how healthy is Mateer, and how much can he make big plays in the clutch? That's the question.
Yeah, the defense is going to be the thing that gives them a chance if they're going to make any kind of noise in this thing. If the defense plays the way it's capable of playing, they got a chance to beat Alabama. They got a chance to beat Indiana. They could beat anybody really, but it's a matter of that offense finding some more explosives, finding 100%. Just a little bit more consistency, getting some more first downs, things like that. And hey, man, they'll have a shot. And thankfully they've had a couple weeks to rest, and they'll have another week and a half or so before that Friday night game. But it's going to be electric. Tell the people what you got coming up on your show here in the next week or two.
All about the portal, my friend. Quarterbacks, especially with a certain quarterback out in the desert hitting the portal. I'm sure you saw that, Sam Levitt. He will probably set the trend. I actually just podcasted about that a little bit ago. Everything about the portal is coming up. Just check out the portal podcast, especially quarterbacks. Hint, there's a few other names that are probably very soon going to be announcing.
Yep. So go check out the portal, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Again, your team every day. Follow Brian on social media at FB_Scout_Florida for recruiting, transfer portal, and more college football coverage. You can follow me at John 9 Williams. The show is at Locked On Sooners, wherever you get your podcast. But until next time, he's Brian Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer Sooner.